Lai Fang's diary. Your mum and I started to meet at the pagoda regularly. We thought that the number of floors, 7, could bring us luck. We believed in many superstitious things at that time, the way you do when you're young and exploring and don't have a fixed belief system yet. We took all the electives that interested us: remote viewing, animal communication, extraterrestrial research. We'd go up to the 7th floor, lighting incense or burning some joss sticks. I'd let your mum throw the joss sticks on the ground and then try to interpret them according to the I Ching as some kind of joke. Sometimes she'd bring that vial filled with that strange energy and try to create little shapes out of it with the power of her mind. Sometimes we laughed our heads off. Sometimes we just stared in awe. One time, your mum brought something else along, a little golden disc engraved with numerous characters and symbols from the I Ching. She said that one of her teachers had left it behind and that she couldn't help but take it with her as it reflected the sunlight. It reminded me of old CDs my grandma had hung in the trees in her little garden to scare greedy birds away. Your mum then went down to the little pond, me and the disc in tow. She said that she wanted to show me something. She put the disc in the grass close to the bank of the pond and told me to look carefully. All of a sudden, the needle started to flicker frantically, as if something nearby were influencing it. A few signs and symbols lit up, seemingly at random. But your mother was looking somewhere else. Do you see that? Above the pond? At first, I thought that my eyesight had gotten worse. Maybe it was the late afternoon heat shimmering above the water's surface. The pond seemed to be mirrored, but along a 90-degree axis. At a right angle above the surface of the water, something hovered in the air that looked like an oval gate, a portal. Cautiously, I stepped closer to the shore. Inside the portal, I thought I saw something that looked like shimmering, translucent waves, as if the pond had produced a halo of itself.
As soon as I went outside, I felt like I was lost to the world. I looked at the homeless people that seamed the streets and found myself feeling almost envious of them. At least they had an identity, a name that was theirs, something they could be called at any time to be taken into a warmer place. If I were to end up on the streets, there was no name to pull me out of the cold. When we had moved to the US during my childhood, I hadn't felt like I was losing my identity. That much I could remember. I felt like I melted in perfectly, even with my Chinese name. Though we didn't join any Chinese immigrant community, there was a place and a story for everyone in New York. Now, all that remained of me was a husk, the spirit of the phoenix sucked out of me. The US government had probably substituted the phoenix with a less fortunate sign, maybe Fang, which meant to close. I was a closed case. Dad had given me my name to honor the communist national hero, Lai Fang, who served as a selfless soldier in the People's Liberation Army. Despite the Communist Party trying to demystify Taoism, Dad had always remained a firm supporter of state politics. I still found it hard to believe that he would betray the Chinese state by secretly working as a spy for the Americans.
Suresh came by later that week for my next LSD session. Surprisingly, I had mostly recovered from the shock that I was supposed to be dead. When I looked inside myself, there was only the slightest trace of fear regarding the future and the people out there who could potentially have it in for me. I was still thinking about them, but they were not connected to my emotional center. It was as though someone had unplugged me, and my thoughts and feelings lay in the comfort of the dark. "All the better for our next session," Suresh said when I told him. "That way you can remain neutral and attentive." As always, I took the LSD dissolved in a glass of water that he poured for me. He insisted on doing that as if I was an old woman who couldn't be bothered to get up and pour the water herself. Gradually, it had become part of our ritual. This time, the onset of the drug seemed more intense than usual. I began to sweat heavily, to the point where I tore off all my clothes. When Suresh began to circle his fingers around my navel and slowly run them up towards my breasts, I grabbed them. Uncomfortable. "Not now, please," I don't feel up to it at all. It's like I have a fever, I said. The inside of my mouth felt like I had eaten several large pieces of sandpaper, as if I was a fish who was stranded somewhere on a hot beach with nothing but miles of sand all around it. Suresh handed me another glass of water and I gulped it down greedily. Have you given me a larger dose than usual? I asked. Not larger than usual, no, he said. Maybe I've done it too many times now, I said. I knew that with LSD there was no such thing as too many times, but it felt as though my body was rebelling against it, trying to sweat it out through its pores. I was driving through a desert with nothing but sand dunes around me, as if I had taken one wrong turn too many and ended up in this no-man's land. Only gradually the sand cleared away like mist and a few sharp edges became visible. A desk. My dad's old study. My dad was sitting behind his desk, his hands anxiously knotted on the table. Another Chinese man, very formally dressed with slick hair, was sitting opposite him, speaking insistently. I know that they don't really value you, he said to my dad. All you'll ever be to them is one grain of sand amidst a desert. They didn't even reveal the whole truth of the mission to you. I know that they don't pay you very much. All you basically get is that apartment and the chance of pursuing your side gig as a magician. How will you pay for your little one's college? The man asked. I startled. For a second, I had the feeling that they knew I was watching them. Only with difficulty could I understand their Chinese. My dad sighed. Already bags were developing under his eyes. I know. It's been a bit tough since Tang Li has left me, but so far we've had a decent life here in the States, he said. Why settle for a decent life if you can have a good life? Think of the project I've told you about. Think of the great things you could be a part of with your abilities. I've seen you up there. I know what you are able to do, the other man said. My dad ran his hands through his hair. I'll think about it. That's all I can say for now. I'm sorry, I just need some time, he said. Tai Guy nodded and said, How? I understand that. How about you give your answer next time you're on stage? I will make sure to attend your show. Yes, all right, my dad said. Gradually, the scene began to fade away again. Luckily, the desert didn't come back, but I suddenly felt the sofa cushion on my back again, soft and soothing. Suresh sat close to me, apprehensively staring at me. Everything okay? Suresh asked. Yeah, it was just a bit intense. At one point, it felt like I had taken a wrong turn and ended up in this vast expense of nothingness. Like, this is it. There is nothing else. You're stuck here. That was a bit horrible, I said and laughed nervously. Maybe I should take it easy the next few weeks. Was something not right? Is anything around here making you feel uncomfortable? He asked. I looked around me. The Luopan gleamed down at me from a shelf opposite us. Until now, I hadn't really consulted it. No, it's not that. It's just that I have to be careful where I go in my mind, I said. I couldn't really put it into words. Maybe there was something wrong with the setting. Maybe the apartment was too empty and my mind had only amplified the emptiness. Since I had moved in here after my month-long stay in the hospital, I hadn't really bought any furniture or decoration. It still looked like I was just passing through. Anonymous. Quite fitting for someone whose identity was a hollow shell. Anyway, after that nothingness thing, something really interesting came up, I said. I was suddenly in Dad's old study. My dad was sitting at his desk, talking to a man. I could hear everything they said. Wow, what did they say? Suresh asked. It seemed like the other guy wanted to convince my dad to do something, to join something. He mentioned a project. The States, I said, and played the scene through in my head again. Do you think he wanted him to spy for the American government? I asked. I think that's very probable, silly, Suresh said and grinned ironically. I ignored his tease. I must have somehow listened in on this conversation when I was a kid. My dad would have definitely wanted to keep this a secret from me, though I can't imagine that he would have accepted the offer. I mean, he was very loyal to the Chinese government. He only went to the States because they wanted him to. Why would he betray them? I said. Maybe because of the money this guy might have offered him? Suresh said and poured me some tea. His hands were shaking a little,
Maybe he was also excited that our investigation was moving forward. My dad was not like that. Is not like that. The other guy did say something about the Chinese government not really paying him that much money. Yet, as far as I can remember, we were always quite well off. I mean, we had our apartment, my private teacher, I said. Maybe the Chinese government would only pay for those things. I'm sure they didn't want him to amass large sums of money and then to abscond to Hawaii or something, he said. That makes sense. I paused for a moment. I think my dad was happy with the state of things. I don't think he wanted more, I said. The drawn curtains let in a little sunlight which was bouncing off the walls. Maybe this is something you can find out about next time, he said. Don't talk about my next trip when I'm still tripping, I laughed. Anyway, I'm surprised that retrieving memories is so easy. It's like switching on a channel and watching whatever's on at the moment, I said. Maybe you've gotten better at it. You've done it a few times now. Maybe you're a natural, Suresh said and smiled at me. My dad always used to say that there's not an ounce of psychic talent in me, I said. It was curious how old wounds could survive memory loss. I think he was disappointed in me. I mean, both he and my mother were star pupils at an academy in Suzhou. He certainly hoped that something must have rubbed off on me, I said. Well, maybe he was wrong. Maybe you have discovered your abilities only now. We both know that you're a bit slow on the uptake, Suresh said, trying to hide his grin behind his jumper sleeve. Hey, I said, punched his arm playfully and laughed. You're also very talented when it comes to wrapping an insult in a compliment. I always try my best, my princess, he said. One week, the usual interval between our sessions, was barely time for the LSD to leave the body, for the nerve's ends to forget the touch of the sublime and be dazzled by it anew. Though, it would still be stored in the hair for months and months to come. Apparently, hair never forgot anything. It never forgave anything. The psychological stress of the past weeks had left its marks. When I was brushing my hair in the morning, there was always a thick bunch left behind between the prongs. I couldn't concentrate very well during my Chinese lessons, and during the meetings of my self-help group, I frequently spaced out. After one meeting, Izzy took me aside, looked me over with narrowed eyes, and decided to take me shopping. The cure for everything for a classic New York girl. We should do something about that skin of yours. It's become kind of gray, she said. As a flight attendant having to look top-notch every day, she knew all about how to make one's cheeks look rosy. After having tried every shade of red in the cosmetics store, I had enough. If you so desperately want to shop with me, let's at least get something useful or nice for my apartment. It looks a bit empty, Izzy said. Maybe a bit of decoration could help prevent me from landing in no man's land again during my next trip. I shuddered when I thought about how it had felt. All right, you know that I'm also an expert in furnishings, she said. I knew that since I had first been to her apartment, which was stuffed with armchairs that looked like eggs and decorated with bright yellow and red wallpaper. A retro dream. We ended up in a big secondhand store and got lost in the aisles and our conversation. Let's see, your favorite colors are blue and turquoise. Izzy began mumbling to herself, walking along the shelves full of knickknacks. So you think your dad might have been a double agent? She asked and leaned against a big blue furry armchair. Yes, no, I don't know. I mean, he was always very loyal to the Chinese government, I said. It was weird talking about my dad in a furniture store like he was an everyday topic. Then there's the hospital file. Why would someone want to fake your death? She asked, lowering her voice. I knew that you were a weird person as soon as I first saw you in the self-help group. Thanks to my job, I can smell weird people from 100 yards away, but this is really next-level stuff. She laughed and slapped her hand on her forehead as if she were the one who had just been declared dead. You're in luck that I have a soft spot for weird people, she said. I know, and I'm very grateful that you're sticking with me, I said. Are you still doing the LSD thing? She asked. We walked past a large carpet on the wall that looked a bit like a map. Yes, I have to. Next time I'm going to find out if my dad really started working for the U.S. government, I said. You sound very confident, Izzy said and looked straight ahead. It has worked every time since we started. It seems to dig up memories that I didn't know I had in me, I said. What about Suresh? You trust him? Swallowing this stuff, not knowing where it comes from? This sounds a bit naive to me, Izzy said and furrowed her brow. Well, it works. I trust Suresh, I said. We had been through so much together already, and I couldn't lose anything else, not after losing my identity as well. Izzy turned around and let out a little scream. Look at this vase! Wouldn't this just be perfect? She said. I turned around to the vase. It depicted ancient Chinese people with dainty umbrellas crossing a stone bridge, surrounded by a representation of the moon phases. It was just perfect, as if it had always been waiting for me.